can a person who did something so horrible and wrong in their previous time in their life become a good man, become a good person again? Hey everybody, my name is Nick. I'm a director and editor living in Taiwan and traveling in Thailand. And today I'm going to be talking about the film Uncle Boonme, Who Can Recall His Past Lives. This film is about a man named Uncle Boonme who is dying, and he goes up north to northern Thailand to spend his last days. He's visited by the ghost of his dead wife and the spirit or ghost of his son who went missing some years back. Explaining it this way makes it sound like it has a lot of a plot, but this film does not have much of a plot. So it's the kind of film that I really like. It is more akin to something like video art than a classic Hollywood movie that you would expect with a character arc and a 3-act structure and all this kind of stuff. However, there is a lot going on in this movie, and I think it's a fantastic work, and I really appreciated it and liked it. I can recognize, though, that this type of movie, which is very slow, very confusing and arty, can be frustrating for some people. So if that's not the kind of thing you're looking for, I would skip Uncle Boonme. However, if you do enjoy very weird cinema that doesn't explain itself, and really when you are finished with it you have this feeling of like, what does that mean? And you like that feeling, then this is definitely a movie for you. Kind of movie I really enjoy. So to talk about this movie first, there was an interesting comment on one of my previous videos, Raise the Red Lantern Explained. One of the viewers was a little upset with my use of the term explained because he took issue with the idea that you should or can explain these kinds of art films. And I actually recognize that point. I think that's a very valid and very good point to make. When you're watching a film like Uncle Boonme, or even something with more of a plot like Raise the Red Lantern, it is very important, I think, for the viewer to interpret the film themselves. And so having someone explain the definitive meaning to you takes away from that experience. And I think that that is a problem with these arty movies. However, I do think that having someone else discuss with you their interpretation of the meaning of the things that happen in the film is a good way to kind of spark your thoughts about what this could mean. So it's not as if what I say the movie is about is the correct thing. It's just that when you watch a movie like Uncle Boonme, if you get stuck and you think like, I don't think this means anything, if you have somebody else tell you, oh, this could mean this could mean that, it gets you thinking, and you start thinking like, oh yeah, maybe this was about this. So that's kind of my rationale for why I like to do that. However, in this movie, I don't want to explain too much, because I think the real point of this movie is to really sit with it and mull over all the little different moments in the film and come up with your ideas about what you like about it. That's like the point of this movie, because it really is very, very similar to a piece of video art. So rather than use the word explained, I will just say, here are some things that I noticed and that you can look out for, and maybe will help you understand what you think of this movie. So the first thing that jumped out to me, and it's something that happens in a lot of movies that I love, is the slowness of it. And the slowness of this movie is done so well. It's the one thing that I think is the most frustrating for people who don't watch many art films, but it's the most important aspect of a lot of this stuff for me, because the slowness allows you to appreciate the thing that you're watching. There's a few moments in the film where you really feel what's happening. Like, it brought me back to my own sense memories in a way that was very strong. The first instance was when the auntie was staring out the window of the car and the wind is hitting her face. The shot is very long. As the shot goes on, in my own memory, I started to think about those times when I was in a car and the breeze was hitting my face. And I feel like this is so important to watch and experience in movies, because it's something that we don't get that much anymore because we're always looking at our phone. Whenever we have these moments of boredom, we have this device to distract us. But I remember when I was a kid and just sitting in a car as it drove down a country road and the wind is hitting you in the face, and that beautiful, serene feeling that you get. Like that moment came back to me in this film. And that's something that happens when you're in this slow cinema and you're really watching it and sitting with it. These weird moments and memories of your life rush back into you, and they feel very strong and real. And that's what this movie did for me. Another moment, it's an experience that's very personal to me, but the moment when Boonme was having somebody work on him in the medical context because he's sick and he's lying in bed and somebody's like changing his like a bag attached to him and stuff. That for me was really affecting because I have had times when I've been in the hospital and had to deal with it, and sitting there and just the slowness and the way that they go through all these processes, and the fact that Boonme is just there and has to endure these kind of tubes going in and stuff really sat with me and spoke to my own experiences. Lots of these little moments, I could really feel them. Some thematic things to look out for if you are really confused about the meaning of this film. We have this idea of ghosts and death is obviously a very prominent part of this movie. Uncle Boonme is on the verge of death, and so as he's on the verge of death, he's able to see the ghosts when he passes over into the next world. And his wife says something very important to him in this film, which is that ghosts aren't attached to a specific place like heaven. Heaven is overrated, she says, which is a beautiful line. She said ghosts are attached to people. And I find that to be very true in your life. It was something that really touched me in this movie because when people pass away, you're the person that keeps their memory alive and keeps that idea of them going. Humans are attached to other humans, and so the idea that when somebody passes, they stick with the person they love is a very beautiful one. There's ideas about reincarnation and becoming something else, because obviously this film is linked in Buddhism, which is the dominant religion of Thailand. The interesting segues that this film takes, where all of a sudden it's in a different place. The little side story about the queen or the princess that has a love affair with a catfish is very interesting and I think very important to the meaning of this film. And I think it speaks to the idea of reincarnation and past lives and such. The idea of becoming other things, reincarnating into something else, is something that's very important in Buddhism, and it's also interesting in this movie because you have the son who turns into this odd monkey spirit, and it's not clear the reason why. And there's a lot of weird stuff with this monkey thing. But there's some connection there, if you're paying attention to this movie, about atrocities and past wrongs that the people in this movie have done, and they're trying to atone for. Uncle Boonme mentions that he killed a lot of communists because he's living on the northern border, and he regrets that, and he feels bad about that. And I think he's also worried about what will happen to him in his next life because of the wrongs that he's done. The interesting thing about this is that Uncle Boonme as a character is portrayed as a very nice, loving, sweet, beautiful man. So there's another idea here about changing. Can a person who did something so horrible and wrong in their previous time in their life become a good man, become a good person again? Is forgiveness and all that stuff possible? This film is so great because it doesn't answer these questions. It just asks them in a way that explores them fully. It's not, and allows you to think about them and interpret them, much like I was discussing with the experiences of your life that you find and see in this movie and can affect you. I think that this movie is very introspective for the viewer. It allows you to introspect when you watch it. At least that's what it did for me, and I really loved that about it. So back to some of the themes of this, obviously death, reincarnation, Buddhism are huge parts of this movie. The ending of this film is very odd and very interesting, and I'll leave that for you to watch and think about it and interpret. I think that it's something I want to point out to you pay attention to think about, because I still don't know what the meaning of the ending is, but I definitely think there's a lot there. What's on the TV playing when they're in that room? Why does the auntie say, I didn't know him well, when in the beginning of the film it seems like she knows him very well? Why does the son become a monk, and then why does he do what he does after? All of these interesting questions that you can ask as you watch this ending. So those are some notes about what this film is all about. I think there's a lot there, a lot to explore, and if you love art cinema, I think you can watch it and think about it for yourself. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments and I can let you know what I think about any specific part. To talk a little bit about the techniques used for this film that are so great. In a previous video, I talked about how I don't really care about what a movie is shot on. I think you can shoot a film on an iPhone and it can be a fantastic, beautiful, cinematic work of art. However, this film is shot on film. It's a real film. And it was made in 2010, and the director said it's maybe one of the last works that was shot on film. This movie is insanely gorgeous because of the fact that it was shot on film. The textures and the light and the color that this film achieves because of what it was filmed on is just worth watching in and of itself. There's the beauty of the Thailand forest shot on film is insane. It's so beautiful. This film is amazing to look at. So if for nothing else, if you're just going to sit there and look at these gorgeous textures and these gorgeous colors, then, you know, I think if you love that kind of stuff, it's totally worth it. The sound design of this film is also fantastic. I love the minimalist sound that they use. And maybe this is a video editor thing. This is something I saw online. It's like video editors don't like music, too much music, which I think is maybe true. As a video editor, I always want less music. I think it allows you to kind of focus more as a viewer. That's my personal opinion. And this film, in the very beginning, has very minimal music. Music comes in sort of towards the end in a very eerie way, very slow, small sections of music that come in. And, you know, the term less is more is very important here, because when the music does come in, it really allows the feeling that the director wants to come through. There's a eerie moment when the son comes back and he's talking about how he met a strange forest spirit, and some very light, very minimal, kind of creepy music comes in, and it really affected me and allowed me to get into this strange, ominous mindset that the director, I believe, was trying to get us into. The sound design is top notch in this. One final thing about the construction of this plot, which I mentioned, something that I think is very intentional and can be very frustrating for viewers, is that whenever the plot starts to get going and you start to think what this movie is about, like you start to think like, oh, okay, I kind of get where we're going here. The movie then changes and takes you somewhere else. It doesn't allow you to settle into a plot like a traditional Hollywood movie would. You know, there's characters that have development, there's things that happen, but whenever you kind of want to settle this movie into a genre, for example, it starts to kind of go into a horror thing, and then it takes you out of it. It mentions this idea of communists being killed, and you think, okay, so this is going to be about a drama about him repenting, but it kind of takes you out of it. There's this very odd fantasy breakaway section that is just slotted in the middle of it. So there's a lot of different parts to this movie, and it's constantly changing what it is. And that, in a way, could mimic this idea of reincarnation, of changing, of becoming something different, becoming something new. So those are some of the things that I noticed and loved about this movie, Uncle Boonme Who Can Recall His Past Life. This is the kind of movie that I think more people should try to watch and appreciate, although I do recognize that not very many people can get into a movie like this. If you are one of the people that liked and loved this movie, let me know in the comments. If you hate this movie, let me know in the comments. What movie do you want me to review? What didn't you understand in this movie or in other movies? comments, as we do on YouTube. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.